Like just trying to figure out, what that teach me. My mind wanders really easily.
I'm just gonna play the first movement cadenza right second.
That's a lot. And the whole second movement?
Should I just play the whole second movement?
That's okay.
Sure.
I don't want to waste a lot of time. Because that's cadenza plus second movement's probably 7 minutes or something.
Yeah.
If we only have 20. Oh no, we have
Half an hour each. 30, 30, 30.
Yeah. What do you guys want to hear? Cadenza and second movement or just second?
Whatever he wants to do.
The whole concerto. No, that's the third movement.
I'm still learning it.
Perfect.
You can make it on the fly.
Yeah, let's just get the third movement then. That's right.
We stumble through it.
Wait a minute or two. Just in case the other person doesn't show up. What are we doing all?
Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Brett. I'm a bassist with the Buffalo Philharmonic. This is my, I think, 15th summer down here. Kind of wild. So, introduce yourself, what you're playing, and then we'll get going.
Hello. My name is John Woodward. I'm going to be playing the Bottesini Concerto No. 2. The first movement, cadenza, and the whole second movement.
Really nice playing. So for those of us who don't know, Bottesini was a contemporary of Verdi, Italian. He was the conductor for Verdi at his premiere of Aida. So he was a fairly important fellow in the opera world, especially Italian opera in the 19th century. Known as the Paganini of the bass. Pretty good title. He would play arrangements of the opera he was conducting during intermission. So he would play the highlights in these big virtuosic fantasy arrangements. So quite a guy. But in that tradition, he has a very operatic approach to composition, much like Rossini or Verdi or Puccini. And so we approach the playing in a similar way, usually from that idea that we are singing his lines. They're long, melodic, expansive lines, and that's what we're going for. At the end of the first movement, there's a cadenza which leads into the second movement, and that's where we'll start. Yeah. So John and I met yesterday, and we talked a bit about the cadenza, and I sort of feel like it's certainly changed quite a bit, very nicely. One of the things we were talking about was how to pace such a long and disjointed. It doesn't have the long phrases of the rest of the first movement, right? So there's a lot more squat, 2-bar phrase, and then something new. How to pace all of that. And the idea is to figure out how to connect phrases and then when to make a clear separation between the phrases, right? Yeah. So we played a game, and we'll try it again today, and we'll see if you can talk to everybody here. Try to show us exactly where one phrase starts and then where it ends, using space. So if there's a rest, blow it out of the water and keep playing through. So try to make the phrase longer than you think, and then put a long pause somewhere, and we'll all raise our hands and be like, yep, that was the end. Right? So that we can all see exactly the direction you're going, and when you've wrapped that idea up. You have a spot in mind? Okay, good. Go ahead.
Wait, you want me to play the cadenza, right?
Yes.
I didn't know if you wanted me to do the second.
Sorry, the cadenza. Yeah, right, yeah. Let's try this again. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a good. Who is your favorite violinist? Do you have a favorite violinist? Performer, or even just any performer, perhaps? It's our Perlman. Perlman. Yeah, sure. Okay, great. I agree. Fantastic. Okay, so let's see. It's perhaps a little more difficult to emulate, but let's try. If Itzhak Perlman was crossed with Superman, how would that sound?
It would sound very good.
Okay, so you are no longer you are Itzhak Perlman synthesized with Superman. What would that sound like? From the beginning of the cadenza. outwardly confident is a little more like slinky around the sides sort of vibe. Okay? What would that sound like? Can I start you again? Keep in mind you're invisible. Which means that if you're playing really, really, really loud, people see you. They hear you. Nice. Okay, one more. So your favorite performer, Perlman, who's now synthesized with, we'll stick in DC, they say the Joker. So which means it's going to be incredibly manic, perhaps sardonic, right? The unexpected is what we're expecting. That's what you're ready to give us. Okay? It's not you, not John anymore. It's off the Joker. Yeah, that's good. 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 A lot more variety of sound there, right? You chose to make bigger, interesting contrasts because you felt that that's what that sort of manic, like, you know, one laughing, one crying, all of a sudden right next to each other.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is that that wasn't you performing, and you're allowed to enjoy yourself because people aren't judging John; they're judging the Joker, right? This is a different person. When Bottesini wrote this, he had something that he wanted to say, right? And so every time we perform it, we resurrect his mind in a way and allow him to speak. So already, it's not really what you're saying, it's already what Bottesini's saying. So that's already one part of the performance, is the mind of Bottesini. Okay? Without him, you wouldn't be playing this. Okay? You, however, are just a medium through which he comes. And that can be a lot of different things, right? You can express what he was saying in a bunch of different ways. And if that is expressed through somebody else or some performance aspect, it's no longer you, right? When we watch a good movie, we're not watching Leonardo DiCaprio, for example, right? We don't just see Jack from the Titanic, right? We see someone else every time. When we watch Tom Hanks, we don't just see the guy from Big, or whatever we call it, right? It's a character. Forrest Gump. We certainly don't see Forrest Gump.
Woody.
Right? Yes, that's the idea here. You don't need to see John or be worried about people seeing John because you're not. You're whatever you are on stage. And so when we have that freedom to play with the personality of Bottesini, and hopefully Bottesini wants that, right? Sorry. Bottesini wrote these things and probably plays it a certain way, but can't expect you to play the same way. So if we're the Invisible Man, right? Right? Okay. Super narrative. Maybe less scratchy, but the idea, right? That's more cackling, I guess. Right? It's okay, because that wasn't me playing it. That was somebody else. Yeah. That's the joy of being able to perform, is to take on these new roles. And when we say, oh, it's such a spontaneous performer, what we mean is that it's not somebody who has drilled it in one way again and again and again and again and again and again. It's perfect, and that's lovely and incredibly difficult to do and a lovely thing to aspire to. But what's much more interesting is whatever's on their plate during the day. It sort of inflects how they play. Whatever they decide the space makes them feel. In this area, Bottesini makes me a little more in here, right? Because we're in a church of some sort. And so you're allowed to be a little bit different at that time. It's not you. Okay. With that in mind, one more time. With the confidence of Pearl, don't repeat any wrong notes because he doesn't play wrong notes. They're all right notes because they're what you're playing right now, right? You can mess with the rhythm, you can mess with the timing, you can mess with the pacing, but just give me a space when you arrive that is confident that you've arrived, and then keep going. That's what we're looking for. Okay, one more time.
The whole thing?
Just a second, just the opening. To the spot where you think you're finished. Don't rush, be confident, chest out. Don't replay any notes that you don't like. Don't even let us know you don't like them. Tell us that you liked it, and we'll be like, yeah, actually, that was good. Especially when you're not confident. That's when you present confidence on stage. Mm-hmm. I would say 99% of your favorite performers aren't as confident as these. There's a little imposter syndrome in all of us, and some of us a lot of it. But what we do is we try to share what we love about it, not what we're scared of. What we love about Boss.
I like what we've been talking about, like lyricism. I think that there's so much more of that here than in a lot of the other bass concertos.
Yeah, for sure. Lovely segue. Let's go to the second movement then. And we'll start at the beginning of the second movement. So, could you play the last little the coda before? Give us plenty of space. Change the scene, right? Change the scene for us between movements.
Okay.
This is a bit of performance art here in silence. And then start the second movement. I'll let you play through the first, whatever, few phrases. pretty nice and connected. The way we approach the instrument has a lot to do with our sound. I recently learned there are a couple of schools of harp playing, and correct me, harpists, if there's anybody here, if I'm wrong. No harpists. Thank goodness, I'm totally right, and you'll all believe me. There's like the French school or something, and then the salzando or something. Anyway, and one of them is like this, the other one, and I remember like, really, what's the difference? And like, one just pulls their hands off. Because they have this idea of the pulling of sound is different than efficiency, right? One is very efficient, one is very artistic, and at its base, I think. That's my limited understanding. What I saw was incredibly efficient. That's more good. What I'd love to see is something perhaps a little more theatrical. Shifts that he's making, I asked him yesterday to make them a little more melodic, and you're doing a great job of it. If we're considering that Bottesino is writing in an operatic style, that means the human voice doesn't have stops, or like a key, or keys, or whatever you want to say. So it has only stretching and relaxing. Even if we try not to, there's still a swoop down. Unless we stop the breath, which is a bow change. If we're slurring, though, we've got to have, and should have, a connection between the sounds, just like we're singing. Excellent job, it's really nice. Of course, the danger is we do it too much, and that a great opera singer wouldn't go, you know, you gotta sit in there eventually, but that's really very, very nice. Let's talk about one more thing. So, the ends of each measure, or little sort of half-bar phrases, or half-phrase points. Can you lean into bow changes, both that way and also so we're either going towards something or moving away from it, and that always happens at the bow change. That's where we end up losing and flatlining our phrase. So either lean into the bow change or really let it go. All right, one more time through that first 4-bar phrase. Good. Right there.
keeping the weight in bow changes, also keeping this. Also increase the speed and the amplitude of your vibrato. Bigger. As you make the crescendo in the bow change. Yeah, right? All of a sudden we're using all of those available tools to make the phrase.
Yeah.
Bow doesn't just go this way and that way. It does all of these little curves in the middle, and then this supports all of that. Beautiful playing, beautiful playing. Nice job. Very nice job. You gonna rock, paper, scissors for who's next, or? Okay. Shurtliffe? Oh, right, you're over here. Yeah, Bottesini is sort of the big bass hero. To get the moniker Puccini of the, or the Paganini of the bass is high praise indeed. There's really never been a soloist after him that has achieved such international fame. And on top of that, wrote operas, cantatas, chamber music, all sorts of literature. It's sort of fallen out of style because it was so much of that heavy Italian operatic scene at the time. The bel canto scene style is a little bit, we all now kind of call it a little bit cheesy, right? Like Rossini. We don't all take Rossini as serious as we should. It's fun. This is not going to be Bottesini, though. This is not going to be. Devin, what are you playing for us?
I'm playing some excerpts. I have Untelligeable number 9. I have some Brahms 1, and then a few others if we have time for that afterwards.
Untelligeable, what did you say? Untelligeable.
Untelligeable number 9. I have Brahms 1 first movement and the second movement, and I can do some Mozart as well, or Beethoven 5.
Okay. I think I set Brahms 1 out and then promptly forgot it. I know how that is. Okay. Why don't you just play number 9, and we'll do little chunks. Let's not do all of them at once and then come back. Just do number 9, and then we'll talk about it. Cool. In orchestral auditions, we are asked to perform the hardest music written across the world in the past 300 years. And we're given about 2 minutes to do the hardest of it. And this almost always comes up with these auditions, so very, very nicely done. A couple of really simple things first. Leading into the that was a different tempo and not segueing into the A flat. It was just immediately a different tempo. And if you're gonna expand time, you have to do it sort of parabolically and not just stop. Just new tempo, new tempo. If you're gonna play the A flats, make sure you hold your tempo there. Jump bum 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 bee bum 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 bee. Same thing with 12. D, yum, bum, 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 dee, bum, dee, bum. Fine, fine. You can take time or not take time there.
Just
But
pass
you
like that.
can't start your time in a different tempo. Okay, excellent. So these are just sort of X's and O's things. The hard part about playing excerpts by yourself is you can't be an island. You have to be considering everything that's going on in the orchestra, so that if you're being listened to by a violinist, they go, oh yeah, I understand how my part fits there. The horn player knows what you're doing, that sort of thing. Excellent. Let's hit the hard stuff, right? Back where you're number 9. I just want to hear it one time.
Sure.
And then I might have a few things to say. Try that again. So first off, we're going to look at sort of rhythm, because that's an easy thing to do. The interior rhythm of this has to start right from the beginning. I'm sure this is stuff you've heard before. Ba, 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 ba. You're doing a great job grabbing the first up bow note. But, so this isn't going to help your articulation as it usually does. It might help the sense of rhythm. I want you to make the tie a rest. Ba, ba, da, dee, da, da, da. Reapply your weight. Top. Ready? Ready?
Yeah.
Right. So the good and bad thing about the bass is that it's this giant empty box. A good thing is that it has this big booming resonance, which is exactly its function in the orchestra. Provides this organ-like support. It's a giant cushion of sound. The bad news is it's a giant cushion of sound, so it over-resonates all the time, and we get sloppy or swampy. Muddy is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, swampy. You don't need to play through ties. You can leave out a space. Did we hear? Did it feel like there's play it one more time? Listen, is it da, empty space, da 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 da, or does it just sound smooth? I mean, that sounds like a tie. There's no rest there. If he had written a rest in, you'd play it like that, and no one would know there was a rest. We'd be like, whoa, if we wanted to hear the rest, you'd have to stop even before that. So don't worry about the ties. Just play through it now. Next thing, da 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 da. Can you go ba 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 and propulse? Thank you. Yep, try it. Okay. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Good, great. So they're nicely placed now. We've got it clear. Wait, now.
Now I gotta do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was best. That was better.
I slide it. Move too quickly through it.
Excellent. Good. Okay. Very nice. Very nice. There's one transitional problem, and that's the E flat. So show me what you're doing. Good. Okay. So preparation is the key. Like everything in life, we've got to have a good plan and then execute that plan. You're angry again? So.
Come over.
Already engaged with the G string if you can. Think in your head, Petrarch. different shapes we can use. Down here we've got structures for whole steps, but once we get up here, so let's get into the structure we're using up high as soon as possible. That means the thumb and the first finger will be in a whole step relationship. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And practicing them as blocks. One last thing. When I came in today, you were warming up. You were talking about using more bow, and I would like to counter that 100% and say I would like to see you use less bow, so that it's more intently in the string, hopefully helping to give you good rhythm, but also make the in tune, connected. Sorry. So you have plenty of room and not right at the all. So start at the beginning. Phrase. From C. Thank you. Yeah. Good. So downward weight. So by the time we get to the C, we have plenty of lower left. I don't remember who else we were working on this. Can you lengthen the high C 3 times the original value? Right. We need to have plenty of room. We don't want to get trapped into well, I guess it works this speed, but that's the only way it works. We want to have options, right? And if we're here, we've got options. We can push a little bit and connect. If we're here, our only option is to hiccup down to the other. Okay? So leave plenty of room. Start the tip too. I think you can take that. Yes.
That's gonna take some more.
Okay, good. This is a lifelong pursuit of figuring out how to do this. You're really well prepared already. Those are just a couple of those small things. Going through arpeggios, up, down, blocking out your finger shapes.
Yeah.
Making sure your bowing is precisely metered out to exactly where you want it and not getting trapped too far to here. It's very nice. It's very nice. Let's go on to Brahms. Sure. The first measure, could you give me a better definition between eighth notes and quarter notes? So a little more a middle to the quarter notes. One more time. talk about excerpts, not only are we always talking about in tune, in time, those lovely things, but we're talking about tradition. Because it's a performing art, we can't really, with recorded sound, great, we can now look at what went on post-recorded era. But when Brahms was composing this, we don't really know exactly what he wanted to do, so we have to honor tradition, which means the understanding of passed down and how it's played. And an audition or sitting in the section on stage, we have to really be careful about that we're playing it like it's Brahms and not like Strauss. Right now, it's a little bit, you're flat and very E. And I'd love some more, oh, Brahms was not a small man, and we imagine he was a bit like this. Ho, 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 ho. And that's what we like. Right now, it's a little, okay. So, not. Is a little flat. Yes, yes. Vibrate and release. A little bit too much. Trying to make something that I much better. The eighth notes there can get a little bit sticky if you're not careful. Do you want to start from? So we've got the mix where we want it. You're dialed in your intonation, your rhythm, that's fine. It's the right sound. Now the next question is how far can we push that quality in terms of volume? This is fortissimo in the part, right? Yeah, fortissimo. So which means it's got to be basically as loud as we can offer. And if we're not really peaking the instrument out, not performing the best we can. So keep in mind, we don't want to get that sound quite yet, but can you give me a little more? What sort of mechanics do you think you're going to change? As string players, we can only change generally three things.
Probably use a bit more hair in terms of my contact.
Flatter hair, yeah, for sure.
Move it down a little bit.
Don't
Don't want to get too pressy because that's going to get,
We don't want to get too pressy.
try and move it a bit.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, and that's what we do. We sort of try to keep messing with this concept of once we understand what we're going for. You have a concept in your brain of this is what it has to sound like. The volume knob is hard to adjust once we get to the outside edges because it always affects our tone. So we've got to imagine what parameters, what other knobs we have to start messing with in order to keep the exact same sound, but just getting louder. I think you're right on. If we start to push too much or drop down and slow the speed down, start to get that E sound. If we want to keep this a little more amplitude in the bow arm, we'll sort of peak some of those bum, bum, bum sounds. Exactly right on. Okay, let's get to Mozart then.
Oh, I also.
Second one. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, jeez, yeah.
I don't like this one.
Nobody does. Good. Let's start with that. Yeah,
Let's start at the back side of that one.
Ba-dee-da-da is forte. So where do you want to arrive at that B sharp? Give me the volume you want to arrive. Now, is there any diminuendo until later? Okay? So we have to sustain that volume. You drop to a strong mezzo piano. If that's forte, which I like that. It's nice. That's a good quality. Can you find a way to keep that? As you ascend the D string, I see you with your right hand. You went. Yeah, good. Take a little more from that right hand, just that measure. Keep falling up. Start with a B sharp. So, if you're using a lot of bow speed and a high placement for the B sharp, you've got to immediately change your contact point if you're slowing the bow speed down. You try even lower. Getting a dip in the sound right as you start up. That's it. Keep it up. Right, and then even. So those 3 and 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I can try to do another one.
No. That's the right going. I'm just saying, be a little more liberal or a little more liberal. One or the other. You've got to keep that intensity. There it is. Last component. That's weird. I don't know how to do this. There it is. Oh, don't play off. Okay, so grind your way through from the C sharp. Up to a C sharp.
Oh, I like after the B sharp or just before the.
Just before. I'm going to say it. So why do you? I see a lot of up bow, down bow.
Because I'm very bad at practicing my bow tracking in front of the mirror.
Invertedly, yeah, it's inverted. Can you be very Full-throated, open, expressive. These are all indicators of Brahms. Good. The 16th notes have to start your tempo, right? They have to indicate the tempo that you're playing in a sort of audition context when you're just playing by yourself. The 16th notes set the tempo you're playing, and then you've got to hold that, especially at the ends of measures. You're getting a little bit long and expressive at the end of each measure, and it's got to keep moving. Okay? So start that again and be aware they're like the A flat. Is ba dee da da dee na da dee da da dee da. That's the idea. That's the idea. Start from the beginning. The sort of sequential measures. Right. What's the loudest note? Yeah, the third one. So the first measure of those two, it was the second. There it is. Okay, so I love what you just did there. You were unafraid to seesaw your bow, and then confident in making a sforzando at the tip. Excellent. Or super forte tip. Yeah. But you're like, well, that puts me out here. Fine. Fine. Yeah, as long as you're aware that you've got to use a little different sort of mechanics to make that work. Great. Very nice, very nice. I'm still concerned of the opening. In my head, I'm hearing 16 notes running and they don't match up with what you end up playing. Can you internalize right from the get-go? Still a little short, still a little early. That's hard right there. You have a forte in the second beat, right? So that you have a quick crescendo. By the time you get there, we've got to be back at your louder volume. But that's it, yeah, right, exactly. I like that you were grinding for that to keep the volume up. This is going to be something that you work on right now to make sure that you're adjusting your contact point.
For those thirds, do you do it on the A string keyboard?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
I feel like doing some A string crossings might sound a little jarring in terms of the sound.
Yeah, I opened the minor third handshake.
Jump. Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Good, okay, that's it then. No, very nice, very nice. So just the contact point issues, and aware of what it instinctually does, right? This gives us that sound, which isn't quite Brahms, but sometimes because we need a slower bow, we've got to move there. We have to figure out how to adjust that. Sometimes we're nice and warm in the left hand to sort of
Balance.
not that different in these melodic areas. So just be nice and vigilant. Very nice done. Good job, Evan. Thanks, Vanessa. Okay, go lead. bass has to wear more hats, I would say, than any other instrument. Maybe percussionists, because they're always forced to play all these different instruments in different ways. But the bass players are, we're really stuck being a rock in a hard place because we're expected to be at once the frame that beautiful works of art hang within, but then also the beautiful work of art. And they serve two completely different functions. So when we're having to play orchestral parts, we are required to be wide and diffuse and supportive. All of these words, rigid, unwavering, rock solid, foundational. Yet we were asked to play Bottesini, like you're playing right now. Yeah. What we started with and what we'll end with, we are asked to be wildly creative, like Jackson Pollock throwing paint at the wall. We throw out all of those ideas to the wind and no other instrument is forced, and we have to play the instrument completely differently. In fact, we have two different tuning systems. We have orchestral tuning, which everyone is in at the moment, but when Bottesini was writing, he had a 3-stringed instrument that was tuned completely different than our modern instruments. And he had got strings. We only got steel strings in the 60s, I believe. So our instrument is completely adapting and changing every generation. And when we play Bottesini, our attempt to recreate the same tuning that he used is what we call solo tuning, where all of our strings are tuned up an entire whole step, and they're smaller and thinner. So it's lighter gauge, they're faster, but they don't have the same depth and resonance of the orchestral strings. So in some ways, it's a completely different instrument. And some soloists are adding a high solo string. So they take these 3 strings, move them down here, and then add a higher string to make things a little bit easier to play, brighter sounding. It sounds more sort of celloistic, although they wish it sounded like a bass. So we're required to do all of those things at once. And even in orchestral auditions, when we have to play excerpts like Devin was just playing, we're often asked to play the Bottesini concerto right next door to them. So it's this wild ask of two polar opposites. So I won't make you play any excerpts. We'll just stick to Bottesini this time. Okay, so what are you playing? Introduce yourself and what are you playing for us?
My name is Colby and I'm playing Bottesini's Shurtliffe.
Beautiful. Whenever you're ready. The whole thing? Yeah, awesome. Good, good. her sound, her concept of sound is but completely different to Devin's. Yeah, I mean, this idea of getting that E sound is what we want, right? When we think of Italian opera, I always think of Pavarotti. I don't know. I mean, I know he's sort of a shouter, but I think nobody shouts better than Pavarotti. So that very much the E, the powerful widening and narrowing of our sound is exactly the idea, instead of this big, open, rich quality. Okay, with that said, you reverie. What is a reverie? You know? I was thinking like sort of it could be a daydream, some sort of remembrance, whatever you want to say. So it has a quality to it inherently, the characteristic that we're supposed to adhere to. I think you're doing a great job. For me, that translates into issues of pacing, where you can take a lot of time. If it's sort of a remembrance, rarely, I mean, if this isn't the kind of memory that like makes you angry, is this a sad memory, a bittersweet memory, happy memory? What's your sort of take on it generally? Nostalgic? Yeah, I can see that for sure. So that's, in some ways, nostalgic, I think of it as kind of bittersweet. Like there's beauty to it, but it's also a little sad. But it makes you happy. It's like a happy cry. Great, good. So keeping that in mind, can you provide me a little more space when you're, like we were talking about with John, a little more space when you're finishing a phrase, so that we know that the air is cleared and the scene is changing to something different. As you start, the accompaniment is very sparse. I don't know how much you spent time there, but I have the score on my phone. There's a ton of open space. There's just quarter notes and half note accompaniment for a while, until we get to and we start to get triplets. So that movement from open space to something that's a little more driven should influence the amount of space we take. So those first, everything until here is almost kind of the first whole two lines, exactly, that's where, yeah, it starts, the triplets start right there. It starts to build momentum. For those first 11 bars, 12 bars basically, are kind of open and free. So as nostalgic as you want it to be. Can you give that a try? Really feel like you own the space, you're creating silence, you're creating memories in that silence. It's sort of a hazy kind of space. Filigree, right? It doesn't really drive the melody forward very much. It's just an adornment. It's like a gingerbread piece of woodwork on the house. It doesn't really hold anything up. It's just there to look lovely. And because of that, there's no real obligation to play it in any strict tempo. So that means it can be whatever you want it to be. Can you mess with that? Let's this time push through that little 16th triplet and then linger forever on the F before you fall off to E. Make sense? Can you play the B natural on the G string and see what happens? Yeah, get to there and then up slide to E F. Good. Start from the beginning of the pickup to that measure, beginning from the G sharp. One more time. with that big change in register, a break in your sound. Can you, pitches are ready. G sharp B, what? Now we've arrived. I should put music here so I'm not trying to guess. This is not a piece I've ever worked on. Rarely this is a secondary or third in line of popularity because pieces, yeah, it's not often performed in comparison to other ones. Grab a concerto. Yeah. Okay, so the connect those, that's what I'm asking for. That's right. Yeah, you're tracking constantly. Yeah. And there's nothing that says that has to be served. So, bowing indications are suggestions, right? Again, we are interpreting Bottesini's wishes, not recreating them verbatim. And so, we're already not doing it the same because we're not playing the same instrument he played. So there's a lot of differences just inherently baked into the process of a century or two later. So you can adjust this as you need to see fit. Fine. If you need to change bow, change bow. If you feel a little restricted by too much in one bow direction, change it. Fine. More. Good. Now, the last thing. What's the most important note in that measure? Or at least the juiciest, maybe? Yeah. F sharp. Yeah, exactly. So, a big highlight, we talked about this maybe yesterday, the big highlight of Italian music is, right, the high note where someone's getting stabbed. You know, everybody gets stabbed in Italian opera at some point, whether it's the back or the front, you know, whatever. Right, well, we have a very famous excerpt from Otello. Bum, bum, ba, ya, dee, da, dee, da, dee, da, 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 and they do this while they're singing for 5 minutes. Right? The high note there that soars over top of it all has to be the most expressive, both from your right hand and your left hand. So, fourth finger is a lovely technical choice. Is it your most expressive finger? No. Okay, which one is it? 2? Try it. No, yeah, let's try the whole thing again. But linger on the F sharp with the second finger and make it a stab moment. That didn't make sense. Not question. Don't look for me for approval. Show that this is the right way to do it. This is going to sound great. Very nice. Can you linger on that a little longer? So we did this yesterday, I think. The idea of good taste and bad taste. So she plays so beautifully all the time that I asked her to play something ugly, and literally we were there for like 5 minutes. I was like, no, it's not ugly, not ugly, not ugly. And eventually you kind of made like this smallest little squeak, and I was like, okay, good. So what I like to do is we have this idea of bad taste, and so many of us have been trained not to play with poor taste, whatever that means. One person's bad taste, the other person's, perfect. So let's all agree that bad taste is it squawks, it's way too long, like when you hear a singer where they're just holding a note forever without any vibrato, and the whole audience is like, oh my gosh, they held it so long, and then like, they're just holding a note long. Like, fine. Some of us find that bad taste, okay? Some of us don't. Some of us think that's awesome. So let's really hold it way too long until we're all like, yeah, we get it. Lay the resolution already. So let's step way past the boundaries of bad taste and cross that line into absurdity. Give me the worst rendition you can imagine. Yeah, okay, what just happened here? You made people smile. People were clapping. That's a beautiful thing, right? The fact that when we talk about music, I talked about this with you guys before. When we talk about music as a language, that's just baloney unless we believe it. Unless we can actually say something that makes somebody else feel something, that's all just a platitude to make it nice and give meaning for us. Unless we're actually investing in saying something. And you just said something. It was pretty absurd. And people laughed because it was absurd. Now I want you to back it off, maybe just one bow, as long as you can make that bow and connect to the E by transferring that weight all the way through the tip and playing. So let's just back off right to the line of absurdity now instead of passing. I'm not going to give you answers about what is. That's for you to make as an artist, right? You decide where you want to put that line. I think, though, that oftentimes we are afraid of stepping out into something we can own, so we stay inside some sort of very safe space where nobody's going to say that was bad taste. But oftentimes, instead, we get a little bit mayonnaise, a little bit vanilla, and I would love to see some sriracha here and there. Just sort of let in. Very nice. Do we have time for a little bit more? Time?
Yeah, we have 10 minutes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so this is the point where that opening sort of quasi recitative sort of stuff ends, and we have some tempo now indicated with triplets in the piano. So can you start to build something that moves all the way to the double bar? This is a very weird and disjointed first 12 bars because we've got this opening bit and then like 4 bars of, it feels like it's going somewhere, and then it steps back again and changes into major. I'm like, huh? Weird. Now, let's do this. So instead of closing the phrase here after this opening pads of chords, can you carry the phrase through and make a 16-bar phrase all the way? So those first 16 measures are just one phrase. And then when you get to this spot, really allow some space. All of a sudden we're up into major, and we start something new. It's almost like that's the introduction, and the piece actually starts to the whole. Okay? Start at the beginning. Any rests you see, obliterate them. Carry, I guess there aren't any, but carry your phrasing all the way to there. Leave a big space, and then with beauty, step into the next idea. Beautiful playing. This is another weird phrase. This whole piece is a little awkward in some ways. It has odd shaped phrases. We have this weird. No, we weren't there yet, were we? Did you just start there? There it is. I think it. Yeah. Right, wait. So, where she just stopped has a high note followed by a 2-octave drop, right? No. Yeah, 2-octave. Return to that theme, right? The double part. So we sort of come back to the same idea we started with. But a 2-octave change in the middle of a triplet, running triplet passage. Can you just play through that? So from pick up there all the way to that theme. Good. Okay, so this time can you sell the highest of highs? Allow it to sort of go off the cliff, disappear into the mist, and then start something new. Differently there. It really made that sort of. We feel like technically. I just want to sort of highlight it for everyone else. I mean, it's as simple as that. Yeah, you're like, is that the answer? She goes, I used a lighter bow. Right. I don't know who it was we were talking about yesterday. Artificial reverberation. Yeah, you create this mood by tapering that whatever you leave, you can come right back out of it again. But if you cut it short, you haven't created that bottom to rise back out again. You created it somewhere here. Da da dee da da da, and it's not quite as special, right? So that's absolutely lovely. I did want to get to the real high B. So do you want to start from the pickup into there and keep playing exactly like you are, and I'll have absolutely nothing to say. That was absolutely lovely. Da-da-dee, da-da-dum. You make that resolution a little more special. There's one thing Bottesini, if we call him cheesy, and let's step into that title. Ba-da-dee, ba-da-dee. Not quite cheesy enough. It's okay to linger on almost every special moment here and make them all special in some ways. Ba-da-dee, and then the piano takes over and has some motion out of it. Can you come out of the. Yeah. So, which note is when we're heading into a resolution with a small retard, which note is always has to be more supportive than it is, okay? Yeah. That's it. Keep going. Good. And now the vision is almost ended. It's almost like we're starting with the camera's almost starting to pan out for the whole thing, and we've got these little sparkles falling down. So these can be as smooth and sort of sprinkled in as you need to. You try to keep them nice and collected and smooth, but have a bit of catch the high note. Focus on those upper notes. And again, linger on the upper notes. Keep going. Can we follow this like the roller coaster would? With lovely jump. Right? It cascades down and then becomes. We've all gone on the roller coaster. You go up and over the hill. You feel your stomach sort of come up this way. Right. Go ahead and roll through that. One last thing. So as we get here, and we keep and I'll stick with this illusion. I know we're running a couple minutes over now. I'll stick with this illustration here because I think it's working for us. As we keep panning back and back further and further, you can see less, and we start to have more sort of translucent. Everything isn't as bright and colorful as it was. It's all sort of a wash of color, like we're looking at something through a dirty window, right? Gosh, my eyes are bad. Like. So instead of that sound, a higher contact point, more low speed, gives us something and a lot of product. Instead of it's too present, right? That's something that's very clear and opaque. You want something that's translucent and hazy. And keep that high contact point even as you ascend. Keep it, trust yourself. Don't let the tip dig and change the tone. Keep it up here. Yeah. One last thing. This is a detail. Make sure you end on an up bow right there and then a down bow. Because we have two measures. The piano is playing young, bum, bum, bum. Something like that. I think I've made it before. But it's got to be quite long. So we're going to need to get you going there. 2, 3, 1. Right. One more time. Just that from the D and then the final 4 measures. There it is, right.